Talk about layer masking now in conjunction with curves. And once I get down layer mask with curves, I am going to be totally set with editing professionally. So most professional files that you'll see that professionals have worked on will be a background copy, and you'll see about 20 curve layers with different curve adjustment layer masks applied to them. So once you get this down, you can do all of your major edits. Like, this is the most powerful way to edit in Photoshop. And this is what you would do if you're doing any sort of professional imaging for other artists or for your own artwork. So I've made my background copy. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use curves to make larger adjustments in my image. And again, dodge and burn tool would be for tiny, minute adjustments. And for larger adjustments, I'm going to use my curves, and I'm going to layer mask my curves. So for instance, let's say we want to make this left-hand corner a little bit lighter than it is now. It's a tad dark, and we want to bring it up so it pops like the rest of this image. I'm going to go ahead and make a curve layer. And I'm going to make this adjustment, and it's going to affect the entire image, but I'm just going to pay attention to the bottom left-hand corner for right now. And I'm going to adjust that curve until I like how that particular area looks. And so I'm bringing up my luminosity, and that's looking a lot better for this particular corner right here. So I'm going to go ahead and call that good. I'm going to close out my curve. Now, what you see here, this white box, this is a layer mask, and this is automatically created for me when I use curves. If I wanted to create one on a different layer, I could use this shortcut here, add vector mask, and that would also make one. I want to make sure that the corners of this layer mask here are highlighted so I know I'm selected on it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up painting with white and black. So black conceals and white reveals. So to change my color swatches here to pure black and pure white, my shortcut for that is the letter D, the D key. The letter D, when I push that, sets it back to pure white and pure black. And then the X key, the letter X, toggles between them. This shortcut is going to come in handy very much for you guys, so you don't have to keep going into the menus. So what I'm going to do now is, because I only wanted this curve layer that I'm selecting off and on here to affect this corner, what I want to do is I want to fill in this whole curve layer with black and conceal that whole change that I've made. So I want to go to my paint bucket tool, it's underneath the gradient if you can't see it, and make sure black is on top selected and that this curve layer mask is highlighted, and I'm going to hit the paint bucket tool on my image, and now this is blacked out. It's concealing the changes I made. So you can no longer see that curve I made. It's being hidden behind the black. And if I hit X key to switch this back to white, I'm now going to use my paintbrush tool, and again the bracket keys to the right of the letter P on your keyboard will change the size of your brush. And now if I paint in that corner with white, I'm revealing that curve that I had made previously. So let me toggle this off and on so you can see that brightening of that corner. So I'm just revealing that curve right at the right spot. And I can do this to other spots too that I think need a little bit of brightening. And if I don't think it's enough, I can always double click on this curve, and I can always start adjusting it again, and it'll only adjust right where you see where I've painted. So this way I can get really specific adjustments that are a lot quicker than making selections with a lasso tool or something like that. I can do quicker ones. Now where I'm going to get really good at curves is I'm going to take some time, I'm going to zoom in on this image, I'm going to adjust the hardness of my brush, and I'm going to make sure that I'm really careful about painting in on this image. So I want to hide my layer mask lines along these edges of this building, or if that's not possible, if you don't have a good area to hide in where you're painting in the images, you can use different shades of gray for different opacities. So this medium shade of gray would be at like a 50% opacity, and I can actually fade out my layer mask lines. I could also change the opacity of my brush tool as well if that's easier for you. So then I can paint in where I want adjustments. And then I could make another curve layer. And if I want the sky darkened, I'm going to go ahead and darken this sky with this curve. And that's looking pretty good. I'm to click that off and on. But I don't want to affect this skyline at all. I can either paint in this whole skyline with black to conceal that curve that's making it darker, or vice versa, like we just did. Paint bucket tool, my layer mask is selected. I fill in with black to conceal that whole change we made on that curve, and then I paint in with my brush on white to reveal that change that's been made on that curve. And again, what separates really good professionals from bad edits is that I would zoom way, way in on this image, and I would get really precise as how I'm painting in those changes, and I'd be really careful to conceal my layer mask lines, and so on and so forth, and I would continue doing that until I've got the image just perfect. And again, if I think that this changes too much, I can always open this up and lighten it some and keep adjusting.